Hello, beautiful people of the fragrance community. Mike here with iSMELL. Hope this video is finding everybody well. First things first, I want to send a special shout out to Scott Aromatico. Thank you, brother, for sharing your platform with me. Both him and I recently collaborated on a top 10 winter list. If you have not already checked out that video, I do encourage you to do so. I will leave a link in the description below. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and transition into today's video. So it just so happens that as I have progressed along in my fragrance journey, I have acquired a gratuitous amount of samples and decants. With it being 2022, a lot of us are now trying to get our noses on some new fragrances. What I went ahead and did is pulled 10 fragrances from my decant collection, and I will be presenting them today. All of which I feel are stunning and excellent options, fragrances that are at least worthy of getting your nose on. We have a ton of fragrances to get through in this video. I'll see y'all on the other side of the intro. Okay, so before we start hopping into any of these fragrances, I do want to quickly preface by stating that I have acquired every single one of these samples through a multitude of different means. Some of them were private sales, some of them were private trades, some of them were bought as standalones, and yes, some of them were received as gifts from members within the community. None of these decants or samples were received from people requesting positive feedback. It's important that I relay that information beforehand and that it conveys thoroughly. With that out of the way, let's talk about this first fragrance. The first fragrance I'm going to be recommending that you sample a sample-worthy fragrance is not because it's some super high-end expensive fragrance. It's quite the opposite, actually. The first fragrance we're going to talk about today comes from Lalique, and it's Ancre Noir Sport. The reason why I'm recommending this fragrance is because the scent profile in and of itself can be rather polarizing. The Ancre Noir line is centered around a vetiver note, and vetiver can be very polarizing. If you're new to the fragrance hobby, this might be a note that you're not familiar with. The reason why I'm recommending Ancre Noir Sport specifically is going to be that this fragrance is, from all the fragrances in that line, going to be the most wearable version. What they did was added bright citruses and bergamots up at the top to make the opening welcoming and inviting, and then they added an aquatic note throughout the mid, which waters down what otherwise would be a very dusty, inky, and gothic vetiver note. I can concede that you can buy a full presentation for around $30 to $40. By all means, knock yourself out. But if you're not familiar with the note of vetiver, you may come to learn that you received this fragrance only to realize that you don't even enjoy the note of vetiver, and then it just sits on your shelf collecting dust. It's for that reason I feel like it's proper and fitting to include this in the #1 spot. From Lalique, Ancre Noir Sport. Okay, so the second fragrance that I'm going to recommend as a solid sample-worthy fragrance, a test drive before you buy type scenario, comes from the high-end designer of Tom Ford, and it's none other than Tom Ford Black Orchid. So with Tom Ford Black Orchid, what you're going to be getting is a unisex fragrance that can run anywhere and upwards to $200. This is a dark, floral, gourmand fragrance with notable notes such as truffle, chocolate, orchid, and patchouli. The truffle, the chocolate, and the orchid are all fantasy notes, which makes this fragrance synthetic. So for the reason of it being a unisex, gourmand, synthetic fragrance that runs anywhere and upwards to $200, I do believe this is a sample before you buy type scenario. You would feel kind of dumb if you blind bought a $200 fragrance only to realize that you don't like unisex fragrances that can lean feminine. Black Orchid is a fragrance that is marketed for women, but tons of men wear this fragrance. It smells amazing. It's one of my wife's favorite fragrances on me. At the #2 spot, Tom Ford Black Orchid. Fragrance #3 has been making its rounds within the community, and for a very good reason. The third fragrance on this list that I feel is worth sampling comes from the vegan and cruelty-free Black-owned indie house of Masai, and the name of the fragrance is Into Me for Him. What you are getting with Into Me is a safe, inoffensive, easy to wear, versatile fragrance that can be worn all year, although its utility does seem to shine more during the hotter months of the year. Notable notes on this fragrance is going to include lime, bergamot, watermelon, and sandalwood. This is going to be a pleasant, fresh, and clean fragrance that is going to stand out amongst your other hot weather fragrance. A fragrance that is definitely worth checking out from the house of Masai, Into Me for him. So the fourth fragrance that I recommend sampling is going to be catered towards those of y'all who love blue fragrances and value performance over everything else. The fourth fragrance on this list today comes from the house of Authenticity, and the name of the fragrance is Romeo Blue. So what you're getting with Romeo Blue, for one, is a parfum concentration with 50% oils, and they tout that you're going to get at least 12 hours worth of performance on this fragrance. I did in fact wear this fragrance over the Christmas break, and I got a solid 7 to 8 hours, which that in and of itself is awesome. What you were going to get is bergamot, black pepper, jasmine, and a white musk. The musk on this fragrance lasts and lasts and lasts. Again, this fragrance is gonna have beast mode projection. It's gonna be your blue fragrance, so it's gonna be super versatile and compliment getting. In fact, I do enjoy this fragrance more than Elysium, which is saying a lot because Elysium is $200. You can get a 60 milliliter of this fragrance for $30 to $40. So if you can find a sample, by all means do that, but I can also see instances where somebody just pays the $40 for the full presentation. At the number 4 spot, Authenticity Romeo Blue. So fragrance number 5 is no stranger to the community. If you've been around this community for any amount of time, by now I'm sure you already know who George Zaharoff is. Fragrance number 5, a fragrance worth sampling, I'm sure y'all understand where I'm going with this, is in fact Signature Tobacco. What you are getting with this fragrance is a sweet and spicy tobacco fragrance, which smells like the cigar was literally dipped in honey. To my nose at least, it smells like a peach cigarello. Notable notes on this fragrance is going to be tobacco, anise, honey, and myrrh. It's a very balsamic myrrh in my opinion. Tobacco is going to rank right up there in my opinion with Rose and Signature. Tobacco is definitely in that wheelhouse. If you value a quality fragrance and a quality cigar, you are not going to go wrong with this one. Absolutely sample Tobacco by George Zaharoff. So the 6th fragrance that I feel is sample worthy was sent to me from Brian over at My 2 Cents. If you don't know who Brian is, I do encourage you to check out his channel. The number 6 fragrance comes from Aaron Terrence Hughes, and it is Haze Blue. What you are getting with Haze Blue, some of y'all might think it's a blue fragrance. You would be wrong. This is a citrus powerhouse with some serious staying power, you guys. This one right here has notable notes of grapefruit, orange, pineapple, and lemon. The best way I know how to describe this fragrance is that it's Dolce & Gabbana Forever on steroids. This one has some stupid projection, like it's still lingering in the air. Out of all the fragrances that I recommend today, this is going to be one of the strongest. If you want a citrus fragrance that's gonna last all day, this is definitely a fragrance worth checking out. If you already have Dolce & Gabbana Forever, yeah, it might be a little redundant to own this fragrance, but I own Dolce & Gabbana Eau Intense, so in that case, it's not redundant to have. A fragrance definitely worth sampling, a test drive before you buy. Aaron Terrence Hughes Haze Blue. We're gonna slow things down with this next fragrance. Let's be honest, you guys, sometimes we just get fragrances that we wanna sample purely because we're on the fence with the house. We don't know if we're gonna like the fragrance, even if it's just a $30 to $40 fragrance. Sometimes it's a matter of space. We get the samples because we don't wanna commit to a full bottle simply because of space. That's going to be the case with this next one. The 7th fragrance that I feel is worth a sample comes from Mazzaro, and it's none other than Ginger Lover. What you get with Ginger Lover is a fairly simple scent profile, but it works, you guys. It smells very, very good. You're gonna get obviously ginger, you get lime, and you get vetiver. What's interesting to note about this fragrance is that it often gets compared to YSL L'Homme Ultime. I have smelled both of them, and in the air they smell almost indistinguishable, other from the fact that YSL L'Homme Ultime has a rose note that Ginger Lover lacks. I did kind of experiment with layering. I'm not huge on layering, but I did layer this fragrance with Zaharoff's Signature Rose, and let me tell you, it smelled amazing. It smelled divine. This fragrance is going to only cost $30 to $40, so you can blind buy a full presentation. I do feel like it smells that good. Otherwise, just get a sample. It's going to cost $10 to $20. At the number 7 spot, a fragrance that you could layer to make it smell like Ultime, Ginger Lover. Fragrance number 8 is another fragrance that I received from Brian. Shout out to Brian. I really appreciate you making my fragrance addiction worse. I'll be honest, I didn't know too much about the house. I still don't know too much about the house. What I do know is that the first time I smelled this fragrance, it was love at first sniff. A fragrance worth sampling comes from Histories des Parfums, and the name of the fragrance is 1828. So immediately after I got this fragrance, I hit Brian up and I said, man, what's going on with this fragrance? This is some witchcraft. I could not pin down what this fragrance smelled like. I could not pick up on the notes. So what I did is I went to Fragrantica, and it turns out this fragrance smells like barbershop shaving cream. Super anticlimactic. I was a little let down, but nonetheless, this fragrance smells amazing. This fragrance is unapologetically and undeniably masculine. The fragrance notes, the notable notes, is going to include pine tree, nutmeg, citrus notes, as well as eucalyptus. This fragrance smells amazing, you guys. It smells like shaving cream. It smells like the barbershop. If you want a fragrance with eternal longevity, I mean, this fragrance is a hitter, you guys. This one smells amazing. Then definitely check out Histories des Parfums 1828. So the ninth fragrance that I definitely feel is worth a sample comes from a fragrance house that is synonymous with the Gent Scents brands. I'm fully aware that for many people, they're going to find that off-putting. Maybe the fact that this was created by Francis Kirkjohn will be a redeeming quality. Fragrance number 9 comes from Galleria Parfums, and it is Moving Times. I do feel like Moving Times is an appropriate name for this fragrance, as it feels classic but wears modern. This is a shout out to all the iris lovers. This is a beautifully done iris based scent profile, you guys. The notable notes on this one is mint, iris, lavender, and patchouli. I had no expectations going into this fragrance, and this one absolutely blew me away, you guys. It feels like the iris was sourced from quality materials. I'm actually gonna make this my scent of the day. This smells absolutely beautiful, you guys. If you enjoy iris-based scent profiles, this is definitely a fragrance to sample, definitely a fragrance to get your hands on. At the number 9 spot, Galleria Parfums Moving Times. Okay, last but certainly not least is a decant / sample that I received from Ken Scents. Thank you, brother, for sending me this sample. Admittedly, I did wait to showcase it the last because I don't know if I know how to properly pronounce the name. It comes from the house of Nichane, and the name of the fragrance is Aiguille. So what you're getting with this fragrance is a bright, ozonic, effervescent fragrance that is gonna wear fresh and clean and will absolutely shine the hotter the weather is. The notable notes on this fragrance is going to be ouzo, mint, licorice, and violet. It's kind of hard to pin down what exactly this fragrance smells like. At times it smells soapy, at times it smells aquatic, at times it smells salty. It's a fresh and clean fragrance overall. The best way I know how to describe this fragrance, I know it sounds weird and the notes don't convey this, but imagine an aquatic black orchid mixed with Nautica Voyage. It is going to stand out. It's a very unique scent profile that somebody can wear in the hotter weather. I would not wear this one in the colder weather, just be advised. Nonetheless, this is an amazing fragrance, a fragrance worth getting your nose on at least. Last but not least, Nichane Aiguille. Alright, you guys, that pretty much wraps up the video. Those are 10 fragrances, all of which I feel are amazing options, fragrances that you should at least get your nose on and sample. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy fragrance-related content specifically, I am going to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Listen, it takes like 2 seconds. Just click the button. It's free dollars. Doesn't cost you anything. I certainly do appreciate it. We have a ton of exciting content coming down the pipe, including a full bottle giveaway once we reach 500 subscribers, so stay tuned. Until next time, you guys, y'all take care. Stay safe. Bye.